Hello there folks, Steve here. Yeah. Wonder what comes to mind today for a video. I was just thinking before, what am I going to be making, what am I going to be talking about? And this has been an ongoing problem, to find the topic, to find the point. But looking around me, I find a lot of people have difficulties actually putting the finger on what it is, finding the point. A lot of people are saying things and I'm thinking to myself, why are you telling me this story? Do you need help with it? Do you need advice? Are you trying to make me laugh? Are you trying to prove a point? Are you going to continue explaining to another point? Because I've already got like 10 minor points that I could answer. So this is how it goes. I'm listening to these conversations, people talking about mobile phones and just domestic everyday life, washing machines, kitchens, people who owes who 10 quid, who owes who a little bit of money or whatever, or who said what to who, all this intrigue. And a lot of that mixed with regret. If only I could have done this, then I would have had that, and then he would have done that, and he would have done that. Don't get me wrong, for pragmatic reasons we need to understand our mistakes, but there's no way we can propel ourselves forwards just simply based on regret. And I think to myself, okay, I'm making these videos. I'm obviously not making these videos just for me, otherwise I wouldn't upload them. And so it's a process that we, us video log makers go through, I'd say. We've got something to share with the world. And people are not happy, and there's so many different issues, so many different topics floating around why people are not happy. And I'm trying to think for myself, okay, what is the true reason? People say it's government is the problem, other people say religion is the problem, other people say law is the problem, other people say everything's fine. And from my own perspective, when I started seeing, let's say after 2001, after the World Trade Center event, I sort of noticed that the world is going to definitely start changing. People are starting to be looking at things in different ways, especially when I noticed that the whole event wasn't quite that cut and dry. There was a lot of questions surrounding it till this day. Big questions, And since that time, a lot of people in the world have woken up, kind of become conscious to the fact that we're not safe with these big powers, the governmental powers, the oligarchy, the elite powers, all of these powers. They can't be trusted, just simply, we can't have blind faith and blind trust and obedience towards these powers anymore, because, it's very obvious that we're being fucked over, basically. We're being used for our energy. It happens on a school playground. People, bullies, different hierarchies, different gangs and kids, different mentalities. The bully kind of tends to win at first, until there's a comeback. But it's all like playground psychotics, really, playground behaviour. What's going on in the world today, I see, because the ultimate power, the ultimate might and glory and everything is that we all get along together and accept each other's differences, but try and give each other what each other needs, even if it's different. If you need something that I don't need, I can still acquire it for you. I can still make sure you've got it, based on the fact that maybe it's the other way around. I need something that you've got, but you don't need, And when this all started with 9/11, I thought to myself, okay, yeah, now, the whole world is now starting to wake up to the things that I've already woken up to. The fact that school systems and religion and church and corporatism and collectivism and consumerism, all of these values are going to take us down the road of hell. And I suddenly noticed then, over time noticed more people, and I'd known it was going on in the 60s, people waking up to to peace and love. But it seemed that somehow at some point was missed there. Nevertheless, I'm thinking to myself, okay, humanity's waking up now. All we need to do now is go on the internet and start sharing as much information as possible, and people will wake up all around the world. But then, 5 years passed, even 10 years passed, 2012 arrived. There was a lot of hype about 2012 and the change of consciousness, and all different sources putting all of this credibility into it. And anybody with a suit and tie or a kimono or some kind of tribal dress or something, was taken seriously, we're in for a big event. And it would almost have been disrespectful to ignore all of these spiritual prophecies about 2012. I just had to keep an open mind myself, because I thought, all of there's too many people now saying, oh, something's happening. Maybe it was the interpretation that I got wrong, but in a way I didn't see anything really in 2012 happen. I'm seeing it every day. But I think what did happen then is a lot of people realised, nothing's happened. Not, no aliens have landed, no end of the world, no return of any saviours or anything. Nothing spectacular happened. So I think in a way that was the consciousness shift, is people sort of sat there realising that the bus didn't come. And that's a new perception. I mean, it came to me then, but it came to me earlier that there was going to be nothing happening. I think a lot of us already knew that the chances of anything significant happening at 2012, on that year 2012, anything significant happening would be, just so improbable. It could be 2015, it could be 2020, it could be, even if it was something based on the calendar, we still didn't even know if the calendar was correct in line. Anyway, back to my point. It seemed to be like a global awakening and stuff, and a lot went wrong in what people call the truth movement. It wandered all over the place. It started blaming itself. It started creating new stories and getting infiltrated. It started just feeding itself, in my opinion, eating itself, just becoming its own entertainment source. One more news report, one more hoax, one more argument, one more thing to spend your evenings discussing. Now, don't get me wrong, nothing is more important than anything else in that way, really. I'd rather be working out who's tricking me and why. I'd rather find out the difference between the truth and the not the truth than to just live in nescience and continue to entertain myself with fake TV series and stuff. But at the same time, it can become like a conspiracy theory sport, just checking out all of these news reports, finding out which is staged and hoaxed. And at some point, I came to the conclusion myself, and I think a lot of people, that it's not moving forwards. It's not moving forwards. What happens if the majority of people never wake up? What if humanity just doesn't get that critical mass? That's what I was thinking for myself. And even if I could manage with us lot, if we could manage to get a critical mass, what would then be the case? Say the majority of people in society all stand up and say no. Whatever, no. Non-compliance. Of course the government would have to do something, but who's the government? A lot of people who've got jobs get paid to work for the government. So if they stop getting paid, they're not hardly going to be government anymore. They'll just drop that position like a lead balloon, Probably most people, because we're just governing a bunch of wild animals at the end of the time, where everybody, at that point where everybody's going, hey, government, do something. Then the government's got a problem. So I'm thinking to myself, we don't really want to be at this stage of humanity going, hey, government, politicians, all save us. The politicians are not going to be our saviours. The politicians are not proved anything up to now, but they're there, they have a job. So that's fact at the moment. And so whether we want them in or out, they need to be replaced with at least something better. Now, I'm not talking about the lesser of two evils, because I've got a lot of good ideas that could replace politicians. But, you know, so if all the masses are going to be doing, or if all the truth movement is going to be doing is marching up and down, shouting, demanding and screaming, and not actually knowing what it wants, really. You know, it's easy to shout freedom. You know, if somebody was, you know, if you were sailing across the sea and somebody's moaning because they want more freedom in the boat, you could just kick them out and say, well, there you go, mate, you're free. Off you go, off you swim. You know, freedom's a bit more complicated. You know, it's like a child asking the parents for more freedoms. You know, what do you want? Your own house, your own car, your own, you know, what are your own capabilities? Your own competence. That's your own competence is your own body of law, your own constitution, your own, like as an individual constitution is you, your arms, your legs, your thoughts, the way you behave. That is a body of law. And each has a body of law, but if your body of law is just based off like stupid behaviour, just, you know, it doesn't matter what you say, you know, it's like, it's down to what your words and your behaviour, and if like your behaviour is just all over the place, then how can you know, we expect the government to solve a problem with your behaviour, you know, and people are shouting out all these acronyms these days, you know, like mental disorders that have been labelled, and I think you've got no excuse. Everybody's got mental disorders this day and age. It's called society. It's called domestication. It's called having a mobile phone that you just like that all the time. You know, it's just insane. People, really is insane. You know, but obviously most people think they're just like can endure all this technology, endure all of this madness, endure all this social media, endure all of this technology. People fall prey to it, you know. So when people say to me, oh, you know, I've got a sleeping disorder, no wonder you're getting like, you know, you're completely thinking about all this mobile phones and messages and other people and just over availability. You're just available all the time. You don't belong to yourself soon. Everybody else belongs to you, because every time that little Pavlov's dog mobile phone rings, bling, 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 you're available. So, you know, this society turns us inside out. And for me, you know, I'm losing the thread a little bit, but it's about me and it's about us. It's about we all, you know, because I'm making the video for us. And it's about finding solutions for why is the world in such a mess. Now, obviously, people blame politics and all this lot, and like I said before, if we all just got together as a massive truth movement and started shouting, you know, for rights, so I'm thinking, yeah, you know, amongst this rabble of people, humanity, there's a certain amount of us who are learning and studying very hard, putting our time into books and learning. We're not just looking at like videos to prove our own point. We're not just looking at videos to, well, we're not at all looking at videos to prove our own point. And it's on the contrary, I'm looking at videos to try and find out if I'm wrong. Because if I'm right, that means I've got to do something about it. That means I've got to share it with people. It means I've got work to do if I'm right. You know, so I'd much rather prove myself wrong with a lot of the suspicions I have about, like, the way the system works. But most people in society, most domesticated people, kind of think they know, or they don't need to know because they can hire lawyers and stuff. So there's a certain percentage of us who understand pretty much what I'm talking about, and the rest of the people probably don't really get what I'm saying, or why I'm even talking about this stuff. You know, some people know that there's something wrong in the world, so they'll probably listen to me out of like sheer curiosity that I'm talking about, not talking about the usual stuff. So what am I talking about? You know, the truth movement was supposed to like gain a critical mass and change the world, change society, so that people had justice in society, justice in the courts, that money didn't cause harm to people, that commerce didn't cause harm to people, that people can live together in harmony, that they don't lose their children through just small mistakes. All of these social injustices that are mostly, on behalf of bad administration from government. And there's people that, we're interested in trying to find out answers to that, whereas a lot of people are too apathetic, ignorant or nescient to pursue that. They just want to look at information to prove they're right about something. I told you I was right, this other guy says so as well. Because the masses generally, we're trained to think we're right if it's the majority think it's right. So back to topic, I'm myself, if I drop down dead here, it's not going to change the world. So there's no point in thinking just about the greater good. Society, what do I need to do for society? That's not really the way to begin. You have to look at yourself, otherwise you'll never be able to understand any of the other humans. And so I'm looking at myself thinking, okay, it's fucking hard being a human being. If it was just logic, and I'm a pretty logical, clever, pragmatic guy, but the emotional side of life, the spirit side of life, it can be so incredibly draining and difficult for me that I understand, human. It's difficult to be a human. Especially when other humans take humans for a ride. And so I got to this point of thinking, okay, so if the truth movement doesn't change anything, and if none of my friends collectively can really change anything, and I'm always, as we all are as individuals, not just talking about me here, I'm talking about you, but I'm talking about me obviously, but when I get into the shit, it's me who's into the shit. When I cut my hand, it's me whose hand's hurting. So there's no point in talking about when you come to that individual crunch. And so often in society, the individual has been sacrificed for the greater good. But the greater good doesn't exist. You can't cut the greater good. You can't harm the greater good in that way. You can only hurt individuals within a group. So it's this conflict or this problem between the one and the many. Me as an individual and us all as a collective. And there has to be a bridge between that, an equilibrium. If we've got 100 people in a team, then everybody will be sacrificing something, even if it's just solitude. But nobody should sacrifice what is a necessity to them. Now, I can't say what's a necessity for you. I can't say what allergies you've got, what rhythms you've got, what tasks you've got. Everybody's different in life anyway. We've got, say, just out of ease of harmony, 12 different types of character. From healers and builders and thinkers and drivers and artists and all different types of people that all tick completely different and can also potentially get really badly on each other's nerves. So building a team isn't necessarily getting on with each other. Building a team is that what comes out of the team at the end for each individual is more than any individual could get out on their own. But like I say before, it's so easy to sacrifice yourself and so easy to forfeit your own desires when just seeking comfort amongst the crowd. So yeah, just to wrap this video up and stay on topic, I imagine myself, okay, here I am in the forest all alone and that, and I know we've got us, we're together. I know that when I get back home, I'll upload this and we'll be together. But nevertheless, there's so many situations where we stand on our own. And so to me, the answer, the solution it must be within every individual. You know, if we knew that there was 10 people in the room and we needed 10 answers, then we wouldn't look elsewhere for the answers. We'd look in each person for one of those 10 answers, and we'd find amongst the 10 people 10 answers. But obviously over time we become so much more confused by society and domestication, civilization and consumerism, that we forget our own skills. We forget our own authority. We sit around in groups wondering whether we should say something, wondering whether we should ask other people if they'd like to do something. We, even lose the capacity to think about other people because we're so overwhelmed with our own pursuits. So often it'd be so easy if we could get together as teams of people and work together, to find the people who we match. But to understand that we're going to have big fallouts, big arguments that might feel so deep that you burn with rage. But at the end of the day, that you need to realise what a team is about, what being together is about. And if we're fighting and arguing, it's not about just then going back into segregation and separation. It's good to get time on our own, but sometimes if there's an argument, that is the point we need to work on. We don't need to work on whether this machine was working or that machine was working. The machine should serve mankind. So if, I should never let you wait for a machine. I should always put, you first if I can. In my own thing, And so often we put machines before people. Computer games have got a pause button on it. It's like, oh, wait, I'm busy on this level. And if we do that, and if we continue to do that, to segregate each other and put machines and social status and domestication and everything within that domestic realm, if we put that first before friendship, before companionship, before just even helping who you might conceive as being not really your friend, maybe even your potential enemy, if we take more time for people, put people first, even though we might just hate people. There's days where I hate humans. I hate human beings. I mean, hate would be a very strong word, but the solution is a together solution. I've never ever once wanted to go off on my own and live completely on my own. I mean, okay, there might have been the odd day or week where I've thought to myself I'd just like to go away, but I've got no desire to exit this system or to try and live on the outside or escape the system or live autonomously, live off the grid. We've all thought about these things, we've all pursued these ideas. It's very important to look at the ideas about growing your own food, but not everybody wants to do it. Not everybody's got the passion, the skill. Not everybody's got the green fingers for it. So it's about supporting those who want to do it. Those with a real passion for growing vegetables. They need maybe some enthusiasm or some help or whatever. So autonomy doesn't, work for every individual. And to me, life is so much more fun and so much more like a game if we play it together. I think to a certain degree, like computer games and these first-person shooters and where you're running around and there's other people in the game, I think that does defy a certain amount of the loneliness we feel. To be able to turn on a game that your attention's kind of occupied and you don't feel alone. Back in the day, we used to go down to the local pub, the public house, and have a beer, sit with friends and have a ciggy and talk about politics and football. So one of my main aims was really, if we're all on our own, alone together, the solution has to be an individual one that we can share. It's about helping each other to help each other. And there are ways that we can use wisdom. We can learn about laws. We can learn about other people's laws. See how they see what the governments of the world, what the nations of all the cultures and everything, see what they think. We don't have to just stick to what we think or what I think, you know. Because like laws, other people's laws apply to us because we subject ourselves to them. You know, if you let somebody into your house and they bring in their own behaviour, their own body of law, and that behaviour is pissing you off, you are subjecting yourself to their body of law. It's not your law. So then you introduce your body of law and say, look, you know, I don't want your smelly feet on my coffee table or whatever it is that, and that then you're enforcing your law. But every man's got his own law. If we can actually become strong enough to become that body of law, to rise up to that, you know, that constitution of the self. You know, but too many people are running around going, hey, government's to blame. You know, I don't mind the mocking bit, you know. I think it's good to have a laugh, but you know, we just can't forget that the power's in your hand. That's where the invisible hand is. You know, it's invisible because you don't see it. Your hand is the one that is working for the government. Your hand is the one that's doing the work of the hidden hand. It's coming through here, your mind, your forehead. It's coming through the pictures you see on TV. You know, when we turn on the TV and there's like, most of the movies are about conflict. You've got guns and money. Guns and money, and then always the things, and then there's a woman held hostage and they'll pay the 10 million for the woman. Slide the briefcase with the money in across the floor in the garage, you know. $10 million, unmarked notes. It's all really just movie propaganda to increase the value of money. So to show you on screen, in the movies, people will die for money. He'll die for that briefcase. But no. I mean, people do die for money because they've been watching too much TV. But essentially, everybody in those movies that you've ever seen die for money didn't die for money. They were acting for money. They got wages. They got paid for acting. In Hollywood movies, nobody really dies. And if they die on set, they don't show that on screen. You know, so all of these deaths that we've witnessed on TV, fake. Well, staged, just a part of the script. I'm not saying fake, it's just staged, isn't it? You know, all of these Hollywood movies where you see, like, you know, shooting all the time. None of those people died. They're all trained actors, obviously. You know, otherwise television would be a bit... So how many deaths have you seen? You know, like in all of these movies and stuff, all these, you know, getting used to the idea that you've seen people be beheaded and all sorts. And we think, oh yeah, I know it was a film, mate. I know it's a film, mate, but it still goes into the subliminal. It still affects our body of law. It still affects your behaviour. So that's what I've been thinking about anyway. You know, this year is like, you know, when you come from the one to the many, you know, realise that you just start to lose faith in humanity. You start to lose faith in group. Be it like, you know, the group power. I'm not talking about a small working group. I'm talking about, you know, humanity as a group. You know, the idea that if only 20% woke up, that everything would be fine. You know, we've got to have a hell of a lot more. We've got to be a hell of a lot more wise about this. You know, it's not just about waking up politicians and then they'll stand up and make everything right, because politicians just don't know jack shit. You know, they're there just to push buttons and sign papers and stamp forms. We should be really over there in them council office, mate, putting in our requests. It's like we've walked into a restaurant and we're just taking we're not actually ordering the meals. You know, they're just cooking what they want back there. But who's the, you know, customer is the king, you know, in essence. So we need to access government and tell fucking government what we want. But we can't go in there saying, I want to be free. You know, I want my... You know, it has to be for the collective. But that's what I want to do this year anyway, people. I want to, you know, I want to see the small people rising up into our power and taking back some power and making some changes. So yeah, I'm going to stop waffling. But anyway, have a good time. See you later. Thanks for watching. Thanks for your attention. Cheerio.